The human respiratory system. Here is the process of respiratory system. The respiratory system is a biological system that facilitates gas exchange, bringing oxygen into the body and expelling carbon dioxide. How does the respiratory system help us? It helps us breathe in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. Essential for energy production. Main organs: nose and nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, lungs. What's upper respiratory tract? Upper respiratory tract brings air into the body and helps move it toward the lungs. It adds moisture to the air to breathe in. Our respiratory tract starts with our nose and mouth, where we pull air into our body. Other parts of our upper respiratory tract include our nasal cavity, sinuses, hollow areas in our cheeks and forehead, and larynx. The upper respiratory tract's primary role is to prepare the air for the lower respiratory tract, ensuring it is clean, warm, and moist before reaching the lungs for gas exchange. Nose and nasal cavity. The nose serves as the external opening for the respiratory system and filters, warms, and humidifies incoming air. The nasal cavity, located behind the nostrils, contains hairs and mucus that trap particles. Mouth. The mouth can also serve as an entrance for air, especially when nasal passages are obstructed. Pharynx, throat. This is a shared passage for both air and food, located behind the nasal and oral cavities. Larynx, voice box. Situated below the pharynx, the larynx contains the vocal cords and is responsible for sound production. What's lower respiratory tract? Lower respiratory tract consists of trachea, bronchi and lungs. Our trachea, bronchi and bronchioles, small airways, make up our tracheobronchial, pronounced tracheobronchial, tree. A series of increasingly smaller tubes that transport air from our upper respiratory tract to small air sacs in our lungs, alveoli. It looks a bit like an upside-down tree. The lower respiratory tract's main function is to facilitate the movement of air into and out of the lungs, ultimately enabling gas exchange, the process of taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. Key components. Trachea, windpipe, a tube that carries air from the larynx down to the bronchi. Bronchi. The two main branches that stem from the trachea, leading into the left and right lungs. Bronchioles. Smaller branches off the bronchi, further dividing into smaller and smaller airways within the lungs. Lungs. The primary organs for gas exchange, containing the alveoli. Alveoli. Tiny air sacs within the lungs where oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged between the air and the blood. Here is the diagram showing upper respiratory tract and lower respiratory tract. Another diagram showing parts of respiratory system. How does your respiratory system work? Your cells need oxygen to create energy. Creating energy releases carbon dioxide as a waste product, which can harm your body if too much builds up. The main job of your respiratory system is to bring oxygen into your lungs and move carbon dioxide out of them, gas exchange. It works closely with your circulatory system, your heart, blood and blood vessels, to do this. Think of the oxygen in the air as passengers on millions of planes flying into your lungs every time you breathe in. Your diaphragm pulls down, creating more space in your chest, which pulls air, and its tiny oxygen cargo, into your lungs. The air travels through your mouth or nose and down your trachea, bronchi and bronchioles, like airport runways. Then the passengers arrive at the airport gates, your alveoli. There, the oxygen moves through the membranes surrounding your lungs into small blood vessels, capillaries. You can imagine it like the oxygen passengers getting picked up by a taxi at the airport. Finally, the taxi travels out to your tissues, dropping off oxygen to give your cells energy. Role of diaphragm, dome-shaped muscle below lungs. Helps control breathing movements. Summary. Respiratory system equals oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. Main parts. Nose right pointing arrow, trachea right pointing arrow, bronchi right pointing arrow, lungs right pointing arrow, alveoli. Gas exchange vital for life. Quiz, activity. Q1. Which organ contains alveoli? Q2. What is the function of the diaphragm? Q3. What gas do we breathe out? Thank you.